Hi, I'm Libby, and I'll be reading you today's Cape Cod Times, dated Friday, June 28th, 2024. We've got a mixed bag for the weather outlook for the next few days. Today, it will be glorious, sunny, and not as warm or humid, with highs only in the low 70s. On Saturday, we've got another beautiful day, partly sunny, highs in the low 70s. On Sunday, the rain and thunder and lightning come back, and the temperatures increase with highs of almost 80. By special request from a few of our faithful listeners, we now present the lottery numbers. For Thursday's midday drawing of the numbers game, we have numbers 8, 5, 5, and 8. For the evening drawing numbers, we have 1, 2, 0, and 3. Thursday's mass cash drawing numbers were 4, 6, 7, 18, and 29. The Powerball drawing on Wednesday numbers were 4, 9, 36, 47, 56, and the extra ball of number 7. And for Tuesday's Mega Millions drawings, we have numbers 3, 16, 27, 47, 62, and the extra ball of number 8. The lead Cape Cod story on page 1 of today's paper is headlined "A Day at the Diamond, Snacks to Parking, What to Expect at a Cape Cod Baseball League Game" by Susan Vaughn, special to the Cape Cod Times. Dateline, Harwich. If you're visiting the Cape, you might try checking out a Cape Cod Baseball League game for an evening of free family fun in one of 10 towns where the teams play. At Monday night's game in Harwich between the Harwich Mariners and the Chatham Anglers, the first rule of thumb was evident. Get to the game early. When I arrived about 6:10 p.m. for the 6:30 game, the large parking lot adjacent to White House Field off Oak Street was nearly full, but it's not a long walk to the field. All the league fields have free parking as well as free admission to the regular season games. How do I know who the players are? As you enter the field, you're met with a scent of hot dogs being cooked on the grill. At an entrance table, you can pick up a roster of the game's teams that night and add a donation to the league if you like. The roster is handy to check out the personal data as well as the game statistics about each player. It's interesting to see these top college players' hometowns and schools from across the country. The Mariners have players from several Boston schools to as far as Utah. The Anglers have several players from Texas schools and Washington State, and many in between. A large souvenir stand near the entrance is filled with league and team t-shirts in all sizes from infants to adults, baseball hats, jackets, and other clothing. These stands at every field are managed by volunteers, said Shanna Grogan of Harwichport, who was working in the booth. She also helped the 2 young people selling 50-50 raffle tickets that include prizes from local businesses, with half the proceeds going to the home team. Is there food at the league games? People were lined up at the concession stand, which had a full menu of hot sandwiches, clam chowder, snacks, beverages, and candy. The league parks are alcohol and smoke-free. Before the game, 2 large bleachers for home and visiting fans and 2 smaller bleachers behind home plate were nearly filled, as were 2 raised grassy areas along the first and third baselines, where people line up their lawn chairs and blankets. All the fields have similar seating. What can kids do at the games? As the starting players were announced over the loudspeaker, young children were lining up to go onto the field and stand with some of the players during the playing of the national anthem. A.J. Lopez, age 10, of Groton, was excited to be with a player at second base. He'd been attending the youth baseball clinic, which the players run. His grandfather, Bill Chase of Harwich, ran out to take his picture. Chase and his family were sitting on the grassy area. He said he attends the games regularly because he likes the family atmosphere and the fact that it's free. There was plenty of room for the kids to run around and chase foul balls into the woods whenever they came over the fence. Well-behaved, leashed dogs are also welcome, Sean McBride, the league director of broadcasting and communications, said in a phone call. Can I sit behind home plate? I was able to get a little more inside knowledge of the game when I sat down behind home plate next to David Gobin, who lives outside Worcester and just sold his house in Dennisport. He was there with his brother-in-law, Jim Person of West Dennis. I wouldn't come to the Cape and not come to a game at least once, Gobrin said. What about the wood bats the league uses? He knows the game well because he umpires high school baseball and softball games. He said the Cape League uses NCAA umpires who work college games. He explained that the wood bats used in the league are harder to hit. The college players are used to composite metal bats, Gobrin said. But there were some exciting moments in the game with plenty of hits as well as great fielding, stolen bases, a double play, and a 2-run home run over the left field fence by Mariner shortstop Ryan Weingartner of Penn State that brought the score to 4-0 in the bottom of the 5th inning. The Mariners went on to win 4-2. Who goes to the games? Jackie Bain of Harwich was carefully checking her team roster when players were announced as they came up to bat. She comes to every home game and was at this one with her daughter, who was visiting from New York City. Nearby, John Scheffler of Harwich said he was one of the many local hosts for players for the second year. He played in the league once himself. Hayden LaFou and Blake Morningstar, both from Wake Forest University, are the 2 pitchers he is hosting from the Mariners. Several men sitting in a roped-off area next to us checking their notebooks and phones were scouts looking for prospects, the fans told me. They were curious why scouts were here so early in the season, thinking they might be looking at some special prospect. Known as a proving ground, the Cape League has produced more than 1,000 players who have gone on to the major leagues. The league is even a proving ground for broadcasters at the games who have gone on to jobs at places like ESPN, McBride said. You're hearing future voices of the game. What are the teams in the league? The Cape Cod Baseball League is in its 101st year. The other league teams are the Bourne Braves, Brewster Whitecaps, Cotuit Kettleers, Falmouth Commodores, Hyannis Harbor Hawks, Orleans Firebirds, Wareham Gatemen, and the Yarmouth Dennis Red Sox. Games can be found almost every evening through July. Check CapeCodBaseball.org for the full schedule or CapeCodTimes.com for some enjoyable evenings watching some of the best college players in the country. But if you can't get to a game, for the first time this year, all games are being streamed at CapeLeagueTV.com. Kamala Harris reception on Cape expected to raise $1 million for Biden Fund by Rachel Devaney of the Cape Cod Times. Excitement has been building in the last few months throughout the Cape Cod community, said Brian Raffanelli, because of the upcoming appearance of Vice President Kamala Harris in Provincetown. We've done the good work. People want to participate, and they understand what's at stake for this year's presidential election, said Raffanelli, who will co-host and sponsor a reception with Vice President Kamala Harris. That's a perfect storm of success. The fundraiser will be held at the Pilgrim Monument and Provincetown Museum on July 20th, at a time to be announced, Raffanelli told the Times. We're building the biggest tent we can get up there, an amazing stage, and we're putting together a dynamic, fun program and political rally, said Raffanelli. Tickets start at $150, with the priciest option leaping to $150,000 for a co-chair position. While the general admission tickets have sold out, Raffanelli said donations as low as $25 have continued to pour in. All funds raised will benefit the Biden Victory Fund, according to the event's flyer. In addition to refreshments and live entertainment at the event, guests can also expect to rub elbows with some of the most high-profile politicians in the region, including Governor Maura Healey and Mayor of Boston Michelle Wu. Delaware State Senator Sarah McBride, who is widely known as the first transgender state senator in United States history, will also be in attendance, said co-host Alex Ritchie. It's incredible for her to be on our calendar, said Ritchie, an independent media strategy consultant. It's remarkably exciting, and I'm thrilled for everyone involved with this event and for Provincetown in particular. State Senator Julian Cyr, a Democrat from Truro, will also be in attendance. It's not just about the money. There's an obvious raising money aspect of the event, said Raffanelli, of Raffanelli Events, an event planning and design company. The reception will easily raise $1 million, he said, but he also hopes the event can urge people to vote locally and for the presidential race in November. Raffanelli called Provincetown a melting pot. There's no question that people in Provincetown care about the United States, he said. This is the right time, right place to bring the vice president here. What is Vice President Harris like on a personal level? After meeting Harris a handful of times, Raffanelli said she's authentic, kind, and thoughtful. I've met a lot of really great politicians before, and I do this kind of test. You meet them once, twice, and for a third time. The same person keeps showing up when I meet the vice president, he said. She can talk the talk. She also makes people feel protected, warm, and grateful. She shows gratitude. In August 2023, Harris attended a grassroots reception on Martha's Vineyard. The event was a fundraiser for the President Joe Biden and Harris re-election campaign. At that time, Sear told the Times he was attending the event and a private reception. Harris, he said, comes to the vineyard most summers for visits. Harris's sister owns a home there, he said then. What other fundraisers has Raffanelli helped host? Raffanelli has hosted political fundraisers before, including a summer reception with Jill Biden in 2023, which accommodated about 300 people at his home in Provincetown, which he shares with his husband, Mark Walsh. The lawn reception benefited the Biden Victory Fund and raised about $650,000, according to Raffanelli. Jill Biden also appeared on Nantucket for another fundraiser following the Provincetown reception. In August 2016, Raffanelli and Ritchie helped bring then Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton and pop icon Cher to Provincetown for a fundraising benefit, with about 1,000 guests in attendance. The event raised roughly $1.5 million, according to organizers. That was a big one we did with Hillary and Cher, said Raffanelli. The July event could have that kind of entertainment, he said. Raffanelli also helped plan an Obama-Biden campaign fundraiser in 2012, he said. The event was held at the Pilgrim Monument, said Raffanelli, and at that point, President Barack Obama had been in office for 4 years. Bringing Harris, who is the second most powerful person in the world, said Raffanelli, to the very tip of the Cape was no easy feat. As far as I know, she's not going to Martha's Vineyard. She's not going to Nantucket. She's coming to Provincetown, and that's because we asked her, and she agreed to be here, he said. Significant benefits. Vineyard Wind moves closer to 62 turbine total, by Michael P. Norton of the State House News Service. Vineyard Wind is now delivering more than 136 megawatts of offshore wind energy, with 5 more turbines coming online as the project inches closer toward its goal of eventually delivering 806 megawatts of power. Project officials announced Tuesday that Vineyard Wind 1 now has 10 turbines in operation, enough to power 64,000 homes and businesses. The project is designed to eventually feature 62 turbines and provide enough power for 400,000 homes and businesses. In February, the project was delivering power from 5 turbines. Vineyard Wind 1 has installed 47 foundations and transition pieces and 21 turbines, with installation of the 22nd turbine underway, according to Avangrid Incorporated and Copenhagen Infrastructure Partners. Our Vineyard 1 project continues to demonstrate the significant benefits that offshore wind offers the New England region, delivering well-paying union jobs, local investment, and clean energy that's helping Massachusetts meet its growing demand for electricity, said Avangrid CEO Pedro Azagra. In a press release, Vineyard Wind said additional power will be delivered to the grid sequentially, with each turbine starting production once it completes the commissioning process. The press release did not include the project's estimated completion date, and a date was not available from a project spokesman. As a large and a first-of-its-kind infrastructure project, the construction schedule of Vineyard Wind 1 is subject to a variety of factors, most notably weather conditions in the wind energy area, spokesman Craig Gilvarg said. Since entering May, we have experienced far more ideal weather conditions, and the project is making strong progress in its turbine installation campaign. We look forward to partnering with the project's skilled union workforce to deliver the full capacity of this project as soon as possible. Boeing touts its efforts to correct safety issues by Zach Whiter of USA Today. Dateline, Renton, Washington. Boeing is having a rough year. The company, which has been under a microscope recently, is trying to peel back the curtain on its operations. In a tightly choreographed media open house that USA Today attended on Tuesday, Boeing said it's facing its safety challenges head-on. Employees from the C-suite to the production line insist that the plane maker is turning a corner, reaffirming that its planes remain generally safe and are only getting safer. Since 2018, a series of high-profile incidents, including 2 deadly 737 MAX crashes overseas and an explosive decompression incident in January that left an Alaska Airlines 737 MAX flying without a section of its fuselage, have raised significant questions about the safety culture at the company, which was once renowned for its engineering excellence. Scrutiny and criticism of Boeing increased exponentially this year after the Alaska Airlines incident, which seemed to show that the company was not keeping promises it made to improve safety in the wake of the earlier crashes. Now Boeing faces heightened oversight from the Federal Aviation Administration and Congress, and possible criminal liability in an ongoing Department of Justice investigation tied to some of these serious safety incidents. The Justice Department has made no decision yet on whether to pursue a prosecution of Boeing. From where I sit, the issue must be a relentless focus on process and product quality, which work together in a virtuous cycle of improvement to yield employee, product, and end-user safety. Robert W. Mann, Jr., a former airline executive officer and current president of R.W. Mann & Company, an independent airline consultancy, told USA Today in an email. Mann said he does not have inside information about the changes Boeing is working on internally, but his comments referred to the company's culture more generally. According to Elizabeth Lund, Boeing's senior vice president of quality, the company's first step is fixing its safety culture, is changing the way it conducts training. Lund told the 50 or so international journalists who attended Tuesday's briefing that a production slowdown following the 737 MAX crashes, followed by the COVID pandemic, resulted in high turnover on the factory floors, leading to a glut of newly hired workers with less experience. To address the resulting change in the company's demographics, Lund said it's reinforcing its peer mentoring program. We've really strengthened on-the-job training. That's the really hands-on part. You go to the floor and you really learn how to do your job, she said. Prior to on-the-job training, however, Boeing factory employees undergo a reinvigorated foundational training regime where they learn the basics of their factory tasks before moving to the production line. According to Lund, every employee who comes out of foundational training gets assigned a mentor with more experience on the factory floor. Eliminating defects. Another key part of Boeing's safety updates is trying to identify and address defects as soon as possible in the production chain. Part of that work includes sending more Boeing inspectors to its own suppliers to ensure that parts, like the fuselage produced by Spirit Aerosystems that was implicated in the Alaska Airlines incident in January, are defect-free before they even reach Boeing property. It also means being more prepared to stop the production line when a defect is identified if it's not easily remedied. Boeing's 737 fuselages go through a 10-day production workflow on the factory floor. They move ahead day by day from the moment they enter the factory to the day they're ready to roll out to the paint shop. During the tour, a Boeing employee pointed out that a few days earlier, employees had identified an issue with a fuselage that was being worked on. Under previous practices, the semi-built aircraft may have moved ahead and the defects would have been addressed literally down the line. But now, Boeing is putting greater emphasis on keeping airplanes in place until they pass a quality inspection each day that aims to guarantee they won't need major retroactive fixes. We've seen up to an 80% reduction in defects since implementing these changes, Lund said. Strengthening the safety culture. Lund acknowledged that Boeing only began implementing an official safety management system in 2019. The FAA defines a safety management system as the formal, top-down, organization-wide approach to managing safety risk and assuring the effectiveness of safety risk controls. It's a standard practice at many airlines and other companies in the aviation industry. Boeing has not fully rolled out its SMS, but Lund said the company is committed to finalizing it, echoing promises the company made in the wake of the 737 MAX crashes in 2018 and 2019. How do we make sure we're not doing anything that could cause an airplane safety issue later on? We're documenting it, we're reviewing it, she said. Is it working? The feedback of one of its employees on the tour underscored the fact that this time Boeing may actually be succeeding in making changes. David Prigg, one of the Boeing-appointed tour guides for the media group, has been with the company for 13 years and told a group of journalists that his father worked for Boeing as well. He said he's been involved in mentoring new hires on the production line and has recently seen a subtle shift in the company's culture. Now, he said, factory employees, including his mentees, are more assertive about speaking up regarding safety concerns. They're even more open to offering suggestions to help make their workflow more efficient. We're very proud of what we do, and we take safety seriously, Prigg said. Life-changing. Patient awake for kidney transplant. By Jonathan Limehouse of USA Today. John Nicholas was wide awake as he witnessed Northwestern Medicine surgeons place inside of him the kidney of his childhood best friend. The 28-year-old Chicago man who underwent the cutting-edge transplant on May 24th felt no pain after doctors opted for a spinal anesthesia shot instead of general anesthesia, the Chicago-based healthcare system said Monday in a news release. The procedure took less than 2 hours, and Nicholas was home less than 24 hours later. The typical hospitalization for kidney transplant patients at Northwestern Memorial Hospital is 2 or 3 days, Northwestern Medicine said. This is the first case at Northwestern Medicine where a patient was awake during an entire kidney transplant procedure and went home the next day, basically making this an outpatient procedure, stated Dr. Sadish Nadig, one of the surgeons who performed the procedure. Our hope is that awake kidney transplantation can decrease some of the risks of general anesthesia while also shortening a patient's hospital stay. Anesthesiologist Dr. Vicente Garcia Tomas said, "Doing anesthesia for the awake kidney transplant was easier than many C-sections. For John's case, we placed a spinal anesthesia shot in the operating room with a little bit of sedation for comfort," Tomas stated in the release. It was incredibly simple and uneventful. Nadig called the procedure an incredible experience because doctors were able to show Nicholas what his new kidney looked like before placing it inside his body. Nicholas stated, "At one point during surgery, I recall asking, should I be expecting the spinal anesthesia to kick in? They had already been doing a lot of work, and I had been completely oblivious to that fact. Truly, no sensation whatsoever." Nicholas's kidney function declined in 2022 because of an ongoing battle with Crohn's disease that began when he was 16 years old. He was able to manage his kidney inflammation with medication for years, until it became clear he would eventually need a transplant, Northwestern Medicine said. To find a donor, Nicholas reached out to friends he had known since elementary school in Zionsville, Indiana. "I was in my kitchen cooking dinner, and John sent a message that read, 'My doctor says it's time for me to start looking for kidney donors.' I stared at my phone and without hesitating filled out the form that night. 29-year-old Pat Wise stated in the release, "John is a good friend. He needed a kidney, and I had an extra one." Once Wise was declared a match, he traveled from Alexandria, Virginia, to Chicago, where surgeons removed one of his kidneys and transplanted it into Nicholas. "We always called ourselves ride or die friends," Nicholas said. "It meant the world to me. It has truly been life-changing." Nicholas, who had to limit salt intake before the procedure, is now eager to enjoy a couple of slices of pizza and have more energy to ride his bicycle around Chicago. And Northwestern Medicine is eager to establish the AWAKE program, or Accelerated Surgery Without General Anesthesia in Kidney Transplantation, for patients who cannot have general anesthesia. How to Keep Them Safe During Fourth Celebrations by Eric Williams of the Cape Cod Times. The fuse has been lit for fireworks season on Cape Cod, with several towns slated to celebrate the 4th of July with a bang. And folks on the Cape sometimes acquire a private supply of fireworks, which are illegal in Massachusetts, so random celebrations can pop up unexpectedly. Lots of people get a kick out of the bright colors and loud noises, but it can be a traumatizing experience for dogs and other animals. In July 2020, a golden retriever in South Yarmouth was spooked by fireworks set off in a neighborhood and fled to a nearby beach. According to a Cape Cod Times story, additional fireworks at the beach caused the dog to run down a jetty and jump into the water. Several days later, the dog's body was found floating a quarter-mile off the coast of West Dennis. Here are some things to consider about pets and fireworks and ways to lessen their impact. How can fireworks affect dogs and other animals? According to the Humane Society of the U.S., fireworks can be terrifying, overwhelming, and hazardous for both wild and domestic animals. Fireworks can cause animals to run from otherwise familiar environments and people and sadly become lost. They may also suffer devastating or even fatal health effects from the stress, according to the Humane Society. While it's easier to avoid scheduled fireworks shows around the 4th of July, predicting when or where private fireworks will be set off is considerably more challenging. The American Veterinary Medical Association, or AMVA, has published the following tips you may want to consider before the holiday. Make sure your pets have identification tags with up-to-date information. Consider microchipping your pet, which can increase the chance of finding a lost pet. And make sure you have a current photo of your pet just in case that becomes necessary. Check the safety and security of your home and yard. If unexpected fireworks are set off in your neighborhood, is your yard secure enough to contain your pet? According to the AMVA, it's a good idea to leave pets at home when you're attending parties at other locations. An unfamiliar location combined with crowds and fireworks can spook your pet and cause a runaway situation. You may also want to consider putting your pet in a crate or escape-proof room during fireworks and parties. If your neighbors are setting off fireworks, keep your pet inside. Ask guests to keep an eye on your pets and place notes on exit doors so they remain closed. We've reached the halfway point of our program, and regular listeners are aware that at this stage of our broadcast, we move to the obituaries. Our first obituary today is for Adeline Jean Gomes Montero. Dateline, Oklahoma City. Adeline Jean Montero, a devoted mother, grandmother, sister, and friend, passed away peacefully on June 23rd with her beloved son by her side. She dedicated her life to others with an unparalleled spirit of generosity that was a defining characteristic and a model to others. She was humble and had a heart of gold, seldom seeing the beauty in herself that was so clear to everyone around her. Born on July 13, 1936, in Harwich, Adeline was the third of 9 children and first daughter of James and Anna C. Lopes Gomes. From a young age, she loved and cared for her siblings deeply, a devotion that lasted throughout her life and earned her the endearing nickname Sister. After high school, she served in the U.S. Air Force, and we thank her for that service, where she met and married Andrew Robert Henry Montero. Together, they had 2 children, Andrew Robert, and Lori Jean, who were her greatest sources of pride. When the young couple divorced, Adeline defied the odds faced by single mothers with unwavering determination and perseverance. Thanks to her strong work ethic, resilience, and commitment to excellence, she worked her way up from an entry-level job as a secretary at Cape Cod Gas Company to management. She often had to fight inequalities in her workplace to advance. When she was told men have to provide for their families and need the promotion, she firmly reminded them that she was the head of her household and equally deserving. Later, she would move to Los Angeles and become a sought-after office manager at larger firms, from finance to hospital systems. Adeline could walk confidently into any office with her elegance, wit, and keen ability to lead and know that she had the job. In some families, there's a figure who dramatically improves the trajectory of the lives of everyone who comes after them. Adeline was one of these people. She paved the way for her children to strive beyond expectations, to attend elite colleges, achieve remarkable success, and become leaders in their fields. Later in life, Adeline embraced the role of loving grandmother, affectionately known as Nanny, spending long stretches of time with her young grandchildren while Andrew and Lori were building their careers. Some of her grandchildren's fondest memories include her taking them to movies and buying them ice cream on hot summer days. She was always in motion, and when she wasn't doting on her grandchildren, she was often cleaning or discount shopping at Christmas tree shops. She was as frugal as she was generous, always looking for a bargain, ready to pass on her finds to those who could use them. Adeline Jean Montero will be remembered for her unwavering strength, boundless generosity, and deep dedication to her family. Her journey on this earth was filled with challenges, and yet it was profoundly impactful, raising the fortunes of all future generations, who owe her an immense debt of gratitude. May she now rest in peace. Her legacy continues through her children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Adeline is survived by her cherished siblings, Richard, Gail, Kathy, and Steve. She is also survived by close in-laws who became like sisters, Georgiana and Roberta, and many treasured nieces and nephews. She is joyfully reunited in heaven with her parents, her siblings James, Gilbert, Eleanor, and Martha, and her great-granddaughter Edie. A celebration of Adeline's life will be held on August 4th from 1 to 5 p.m. at the 400 East Restaurant and Bar in East Harwich. In lieu of flowers, donations may be made in her memory to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Fred A. Budreski, dateline Brewster. Fred Budreski of Brewster, son of Alphonse and Eva Budreski, passed away peacefully in his sleep on Wednesday, June 20th, at home in Brewster. He was the loving husband of Kathy for 55 years and leaves his 3 children, Mark, Anne, and John, his dear grandsons, his sister, and several special nieces. Fred graduated from Stonehill College, was an executive with the Bell and Howell Company in Needham for many years before transitioning to State Street Bank, then to Bottom Line Technologies in Exeter, New Hampshire. After retirement, he enjoyed his volunteer job at the Cape Cod Museum of Natural History, leading field walks and serving on their board. He also loved spending time driving elderly residents to their appointments and being a part-time local tour guide. Fred served in the Honor Guard with the U.S. Army while stationed at Fort Myer in Washington, D.C., and served in President John F. Kennedy's inauguration parade, and we thank him for that service. Fred delighted in cooking and sharing homemade food, especially from his beloved ethnic heritage. He was a loving husband, father, grandfather, uncle, and friend to many who loved him. He was a man of great faith, an avid fisherman, a reader, and a lover of nature in all its forms. He made the world a better place wherever he went, and will sorely be missed by all who knew and loved him. A funeral mass for Fred will be celebrated at St. Joan of Arc on Canal Road in Orleans on July 2nd at 11 a.m. Interment will be held at the Massachusetts National Cemetery in Bourne in a private ceremony with family at a later time. Moving on to the Ask Carolyn column, today's is headlined, Teen Daughter is Grumpy About Family Travel Plans. Oh, Carolyn, my teen does not want to go anywhere, at least not with her parents and family. She was excited for a school trip to Europe and had a great time. I suggest road trips, visits with family out of state, amusement parks, beaches, mountains, and all are met with a response that ranges from meh to ugh. We finally have the resources to enjoy some vacation travel time, and I'm also hoping to give her some cool experiences before she flies off to college in a few years. But paying a bunch of money to travel, only to have her grumpy and rolling her eyes the whole time, does not seem fun to anyone. She's now starting to say she doesn't really want to make the trips to visit with family in other states, including on holidays. I want to take the family trip to the beach this summer and visit my aunt along the way. And she's already grumbling that my aunt's house is boring and doesn't have good Wi-Fi. Okay, that last part is true and annoying. I want to respect her wishes, but also don't think that at 15 she should be in the driver's seat on family travel decisions. What to do? Signed, Anonymous. Dear Anonymous, recognize that you've entered your awkward phase. It's when everything you do, say, think, wear, breathe, or chew is awkward for your adolescent child. Most parents of teens get there, if not all. Even cool travel cannot buy you an exemption. Embrace it. Your kid is trying to understand who she is apart from you. Your choosing not to take the emotional separation personally is a great way to let her do that. Next, decide how that will look in your family. A parent wants to be in the driver's seat of the family, of course, but that doesn't mean you have to declare that you set the travel agenda and she will go with you and like it. That's one way to seize the wheel, sure, but there are others. You can also pick your battles. Maybe the window has closed on the bougie holiday card photo at whatever resort, sorry, but maintaining ties with extended family isn't optional, no matter how many holes she burns in the photos with her suffering. Due fairness, let her weigh in on some of the plans. Another is to encourage her student travel as you put family travel on hiatus, until all parties' participation is willing again. It's a risk. You're staking everything on the hope those togetherness days will come again, which they may not. The passage of time won't be denied. However, forcing the issue isn't just a matter of wasted cash and toxic exposure to eye-rolling. It's also a form of silencing under the guise of leisure. She is changing and growing, so why can't your approach to travel, among other things, change and grow with her? That sets a tone of respect, not capitulation. And respect is the kind of family value that can inspire grown kids to travel with their parents throughout their lives, once the cringing lets down, at least. Set aside some of those hard-won resources, and maybe you can treat your daughter during her leaner years, along with any family of her own she may have. What happens if every U.S. worker has an IRA? Survey shows only half of American households have retirement savings. By Daniel DeVise of USA Today. In an ongoing study, researchers from Princeton University and the Treasury Department have concluded that a national retirement savings plan would substantially raise the nation's savings rate, especially for low-income workers. If every worker were automatically enrolled in a retirement plan, the savings rate among low-income workers would double from 21% to 40%. Because fewer lower-income Americans save for retirement, a national savings plan could offer a potential solution to that challenge, the researchers say. Workers who retire with sufficient savings put less of a strain on social services. The 401k employee retirement plan and its personal savings counterpart, the IRA, offer tax breaks as an incentive for Americans to save. But the programs are hardly a resounding success. Only about half of American households have retirement accounts, according to the Federal Survey of Consumer Finances. Most wealthy Americans take full advantage of retirement tax perks. In the 50 to 59 age group, researchers found more than 90% of upper-income households, the top 2/5 of earners, have tax-favored retirement accounts. By contrast, among lower-income Americans of the same age, retirement savings is comparatively rare. For those earning the lowest 20% of income, only about one household in 5 has a 401k or IRA. Low-income workers often lack access to retirement savings, experts say. They're more likely to work part-time jobs that lack retirement benefits, to change jobs frequently, to work for companies that don't offer retirement plans, or to be out of work. The Princeton and Treasury researchers calculated how a national automated savings retirement plan might impact retirement savings among low-income workers. Such a plan would nationalize the patchwork of automated savings programs already in place in several states. Those initiatives automatically enroll hundreds of thousands of workers in retirement savings, covering employees whose companies don't offer retirement plans. Even with a national retirement plan, researchers found the savings rate for low-income workers would top out around 40%. Researchers cite two main reasons. Many low-income employees are in gig work and other jobs that don't yield a W-2 form at the end of the year. And many workers would opt out of an automated savings plan to focus their funds on more urgent needs. A 40% savings rate is still not 100, said Motohiro Yogo, an economics professor at Princeton. But doubling from 21 to 40 is still a pretty nice gain. Advocates for retirement savings hail the new automated savings programs, which have popped up across the country over the last several years. Collectively, the initiatives have enrolled more than 800,000 workers who have saved at least $1.5 billion, according to research from Pew Charitable Trusts and Georgetown University. 16 states have enacted automated retirement savings, according to a tracker maintained by Georgetown. At least 8 programs are up and running in Oregon, Illinois, California, Connecticut, Maryland, Colorado, Virginia, and Maine. But a national retirement program remains a long shot. Representative Richard Neal, a Democrat from Massachusetts, has repeatedly introduced an automated savings bill that would nationalize the state-led movement, but the national legislation has not gained traction. Southern and conservative states have been slow to adopt automated retirement savings. Yet retirement savings legislation has a long history of being bipartisan, said Catherine Collinson, CEO of the nonprofit Transamerica Center for Retirement Studies. State governments have an incentive to help workers save for retirement, because retirees who lack savings put a strain on social services. Pew puts the collective tab at $334 billion over 20 years if saving rates do not increase. While Congress may not be amenable to a national retirement plan, lawmakers have collaborated with the Biden administration to enact several smaller retirement savings initiatives. The new programs passed in 2022 as part of Secure Act 2.0 could collectively yield trillions of dollars in savings, according to industry estimates. The Savers Match. Under the Savers Match, starting in 2027, nearly 22 million low- and middle-income employees who contribute to a retirement savings account become eligible for matching funds from the government. The maximum match is $1,000 per person, according to a Pew analysis. The Savers Match replaces the current Savers Credit, a non-refundable tax credit for lower-income taxpayers. The big difference? The Savers Credit only reduces the tax you owe. The Savers Match puts dollars into your retirement account. Auto portability. This initiative encourages workers to roll over retirement savings into an IRA if they leave a job, whereupon the funds can automatically transfer to a retirement plan at a new employer. The auto portability program applies to accounts valued at $7,000 or less. Research shows workers often cash out low-value accounts, potentially losing thousands of dollars of compounded interest over time. And finally, auto enrollment. Starting in 2025, Most new 401k plans must automatically enroll employees, rather than leave the decision to workers. Currently, many 401k plans are voluntary, meaning that employees must sign up to participate. Under auto-enrollment, an employee who does nothing opts in. This weekend's Things to Do column is headlined, "Come to the Powwow at least once." Mashpee Wampanoag Powwow to take place July 5th to 7th by Frankie Rowley of the Cape Cod Times. The 103rd Mashpee Wampanoag Powwow will take place July 5th to 7th, celebrating the tribe's annual homecoming, traditions, and culture. The gates to the powwow open at noon each day with festivities such as traditional dancing, drumming, and arts and crafts taking place throughout traditional ceremonies like Fireball, a healing ceremony performed by the tribe's men, and the crowning of the powwow princess will also occur on select days. I think everyone should attend the powwow because we're all neighbors, and in order to be a good neighbor, you need to understand who you live amongst, said Deja Peters, a tribal citizen and former powwow princess. I would really recommend anyone who lives in Mashpee should definitely come to the powwow at least once, because you get a taste of who we are, what we do, what our culture is, and our traditional ways. Food vendors will also be on site selling a mix of traditional Native American food and American staples like wings and hot dogs, according to Peters. As a former powwow princess, Peters said the crowning ceremony, which takes place July 7th, is one of her favorite parts because it gives the tribe a chance to honor a Wampanoag woman for being a leader in her community. I just think it's such a beautiful tradition that we get to crown a new girl each year, Peters said. It really is like a sisterhood, not only among the princesses, but among our women in general. The crowning is a really nice way to highlight a young girl who's willing to step up to the plate and honor and represent our people in that way. To become a powwow princess, potential candidates apply for the role and go before a group of respected tribal women, according to Peters, where they discuss why they want to become princess and what that title means to them. It gives girls a platform to be able to represent our people and lead the community, Peters said. Outside of the princess crowning, other traditional ceremonies like Fireball are set to take place throughout the weekend. This year's Fireball is scheduled for dusk on July 6th. The Sly Fox Mishoon race is set for 6 a.m. on July 6th, and the famed clambake is scheduled for July 7th. It's a really cool ceremony, Peters said about Fireball. The ball is literally lit on fire, and the men, it's a ceremony, but it kind of also looks like a game, pass the ball back and forth. It's really cool to watch. Tickets for this year's powwow are $15 for general admission and $10 for elders per day and can be bought online or at the gate. Children 5 and under get in for free. To purchase tickets online or for more information about this year's powwow, visit MashpeeWampanoagTribe.gov. Lavish Color. Cape Cod Hydrangea Festival offers bright hidden gardens by Barbara Clark, contributing writer to the Cape Cod Times. Just when you were thinking that Cape Cod may be monocolored, all blue ocean to the horizon, along comes a summer explosion of color as beautiful garden landscapes and spectacular blooms are on view during the 10th annual Cape Cod Hydrangea Festival, July 5th to 14th at locations all the way from Falmouth to the Outer Cape. It's as if a crazy painter is splashing lavish color all over the garden landscape, dripping over fences, spilling onto the lanes and byways. It's hydrangea time, with cascades of crimson, purple, royal blue, lavender, and fuchsia blooming everywhere. The annual garden celebration boasts an abundance of everything hydrangea fans might wish for, from hydrangea talks, classes, art events and workshops, promotions at area nurseries, book signings, parties and soirees, to popular walking tours that offer a one-time chance to see past the garden gate and stroll through a host of private home gardens across Cape Cod. Tour Hidden Gardens Ripe with Hydrangea. Discovering hidden garden delights across the Cape is a highlight of the yearly festival. This year, 100 sensational private gardens, the most ever, open their gates to visitors on specified days, all described at the festival website, CapeCodHydrangeaFest.com. Each location pairs with a nonprofit that receives 100% of the admission proceeds, which is $5 per garden per visitor. This year, several local food pantries are among the 30 groups that benefit from the tours. Garden tours cover a multitude of different landscapes. Among them, a 40-year-old home in Barnstable offers strands of color from a host of flowering plants that grow alongside heirloom hydrangeas. Terraced plantings and rock gardens, along with breathtaking views of Pilgrim Lake, enhance the walk at a 1790 farmhouse in Orleans. In Yarmouthport, hydrangea experts Mal and Mary K. Condon show off new varieties of hydrangeas, growing next to raised vegetable and rhubarb beds. Edible and native plants maximize space in a half-acre lot in East Falmouth, a chance to see the growth of a new garden landscape. During tours at her condo garden in West Yarmouth, hydrangea expert Linda Coven offers talks at 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. on creating pot-in-pot container gardens that feature a centerpiece of hydrangea plants. Well-known Cape Cod gardening expert C.L. Fornari, whose local Garden Line radio show reaches a wide Cape audience, suggests that visitors engage with the gardener and owners during tours and ask lots of questions about plants with which the visitors are unfamiliar. The tours, she said, are ideal for generating ideas about what can be done in your own backyard. The festival draws fans from all corners of the world. Fornari noted that she's hosted visitors at her sandwich garden from Australia, the UK, Ireland, Japan, Beijing in China, and all over the United States. Masses of blooms greet aficionados in 2 abundant hydrangea gardens at the 100-acre Heritage Museums and Gardens in Sandwich. The Cape Cod Hydrangea Society Display Garden shows off a collection of more than 155 different varieties, many grown nowhere else. The North American Test Garden shows off 240 of the newest hydrangea varieties, tested and evaluated under the watchful eye of Mal Condon, curator of hydrangeas at Heritage. Nature's colorful show inspires art. Hands-on art offers ways to see nature in new ways. Festival goers can learn the finer points of close-up hydrangea photography during a photo walk with fine art photographer Dave Mullen on July 8th, or transform traditional images into art with photographer Bob Wheaton on July 10th. There are painting workshops with Karen Shortsleeve on July 9th, or Sissy Snev Schultz on July 13th. All are affiliated with the Cape Cod Art Center in Barnstable. The Sandwich Arts Alliance offers a 2-session class to create a terracotta flower pot on July 8th and 12th, and a mixed media hydrangea workshop with Jackie Hawk on July 13th. Artist Jenny Faw hosts a freestyle watercolor workshop with a floral theme at her home, located within the Cape Cod National Seashore at Little Creek Farm in Eastham on July 6th. Those inclined to stroll may choose a flower-filled walk in the Yasuna Denny Sculpture Garden at Cape Cod Museum of Art on July 12th. On July 13th, step it up at a hydrangea art soiree at the Cape Cod Art Center with entertainment, refreshments, and a painting demo. Good weather, great blooms. Festival planners are grinning from ear to ear at weather forecasts for the festival, unlike the 2023 season, when flowering plants suffered widespread injury as a result of extreme January cold. This is going to be a fantastic year for hydrangea blooms, declared Fornari. Last year's rainy summer and the recent mild winter have encouraged even the blooms that aren't very bud hardy, so they'll be flowering this year. The 10th annual Cape Cod Hydrangea Festival runs July 5th to 14th at venues throughout Cape Cod. Details of all events and garden tours, including dates and times, are online at CapeCodHydrangeaFest.com. Mom Blog, Taking Care of the People Who Take Care of Everybody Else, by Frankie Rowley of the Cape Cod Times. On a sunny Friday afternoon in Harwich, local moms and their kids walked in and out of Perks, grabbing a free cup of coffee and hitting the road or staying to chat with some familiar and new faces. As moms turned up, they were greeted by the eager moms of Cape Cod Moms, an online blog, wanting to make their day a little brighter. Whether it was founder Megan Block stopping moms to tell them to put their coffee on her tab as part of their coffee meetup, or numerous moms offering to watch their children while they waited in line, it was clear to see that Block and her team were focused on one thing: mom. We just tell moms to come by, and if they show up, we buy them a cup of coffee, Block said. Some moms stay and chat and make friends. Some moms just get coffee to go, but it's kind of our way to create that community. Cape Cod Moms relaunched in October 2023 after Block bought the domain name from previous Falmouth Mommy blogger Amy Leonardi. For several years, Leonardi ran Cape Cod Moms as a collaborative kind of community resource rather than a media resource, according to Block. But it went dormant after the pandemic. I reached out to her and said, "Hey, I have this thing called Boston Moms, and I really want to expand to the Cape. Would you ever be willing to sell me the domain name?" Block explained, "I'm going to promise you that I will take this and make it something that you'll be really proud of." The beauty of Cape Cod Moms and Block's two other sites, Boston Moms and Rhode Island Moms, all owned and operated by her media company, Wicked Good Moms Media Group, is simple. It's by moms and for moms, providing what Block refers to as a mom's eye view of each respective area. It's so important for moms to have an outlet and normalize the good and the challenges of child rearing, said Leah Rockwell, a writer for Cape Cod Moms and school psychologist at Ezra Baker Innovation School in Dennis. From personal essays and informative articles on topics such as which stroller to buy, or tips for maintaining a good balance between work, being a mom, and being an individual, the blog touches on many things important to moms. Sharing recommendations with peers. As moms, we go to other moms for recommendations, Block said. We ask them what car seat to buy, what library to go to story time, which beach has the best and most accessible bathrooms. Google exists. Lots of these kinds of listicle websites exist, but nothing existed on the Cape that was by moms for moms. And I think that mom-to-mom recommendation is what will continue to set us apart. Echoing Rockwell's earlier statement, Ashley Flanagan, operations manager for Cape Cod Moms, said outside of providing resources, the blog provides support for moms, noting that sometimes as a mom, you just need to know that someone else is in the same boat as you. It's so interesting as moms that we have the same experiences, but we don't really talk about it, said Flanagan. I think being a mom, before recently, you didn't talk about how hard it was, that sometimes you can't get dinner on the table, so you end up doing Eggo waffles and orange juice for dinner. In the past, I feel like you were almost made to feel as a bad mom. But now we're validating you, telling you, no, we're doing it too. Everybody's doing it like this. We're all in this together. Outside of blogging, Cape Cod Moms also prioritizes hosting events for local moms to come and enjoy themselves and meet others in their area. We position anything we're doing in the community as for the moms, said Blocks. You can bring your kids to the coffee meetups, but we're buying you a cup of coffee. I always say we're taking care of the people who take care of everybody else. And I think that's really what makes moms more apt to come out, because they know that there's not an expectation that they're going to have to be super done up and their kids are going to be so well behaved. To learn more about Cape Cod Moms and their meetups, visit capecodmoms.com or check out their social media pages. And that's all I have time for today. This is your reader, Libby, saying thank you for listening.